Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, a real, meaningful welterweight fight that the world is ready for in Brooklyn. It's only right. And Keith Thurman is here right now to talk. How are you, Keith?
I'm good, man. How you doing today?
I'm good, man. I mean, you're 2 days away from a big moment. Is this the biggest? Is this the biggest moment of your career?
Most definitely, man. This is a unification bout. Undefeated champion versus undefeated champion, both in their prime, 28 years old. You know, Saturday night, someone's has to go. Here in Brooklyn, I just fought here last year, June, against Sean Porter, one of my most competitive fights. People think Danny's going to be my toughest opponent to date, but I tell people, you know, they can get that title. They deserve that after the fight. I don't look at anybody as the toughest yet. I know that they're going to try to be the toughest, but it's going to be my skills versus his skills, and we're going to see what manifests Saturday night.
Yeah, I was reading an article earlier today. There are people who have really high expectations for this fight from a sheer entertainment standpoint, from a potential, great sort of fight that boxing needs standpoint. Do you think that, obviously matchups make fights, and do you think that the styles that you and Danny bring to the table are such that this could lead to sort of one of those special in-ring chemistries where as opponents, you just really bring good stuff out of each other?
At the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of power in that building. Danny Garcia is known for being a puncher. Keith One-Time Thurman is known for being a puncher. And, I mean, we're champions, man. Danny dominated 140. He came up to 147. He grabbed a world title. And, he's stayed undefeated. He's had some competitive fights, but he's always overcome them. My last fight was highly competitive, and I overcame that. So at the end of the day, man, we're going to challenge each other to the utmost. I look forward to getting into the trenches and just trading blows.
In a weird way, I know every time a fighter fights, obviously the only thing, especially when you're undefeated, you're thinking about is getting a win and keeping that zero and getting bigger paydays and doing more and more and getting more exposure and money. But is there also a desire, because we live in a time, it's almost become a tired subject, but at the same time, I understand why people feel that way, that over the last several years, boxing has suffered in certain ways, and partially that is because there have not been mainstream rivalries that the people are aware of, who are, fighters who are not, that you don't have to be a super boxing head to be aware of. So my point is, as a fighter, as much as you're always looking for the win, for your one's career's sake, do you sort of look forward to the idea of having someone who you could have maybe multiple wars with and really have someone where a rivalry means something?
It's interesting that you bring that up, because lately a few people have been asking that question, right? Like, what if the fight happens to be a draw? And then, it's highly competitive. The fight becomes a draw, controversial draw. Whatever happens, at the end of the day, will you do that rematch? If one man bests the other man, will there still be a rematch, and have that rivalry where you're going back and forth, Some people still are interested in the rematch with Sean Porter because he put up a very intense fight. Though I won on all three judges' scorecards, it still was a highly competitive fight. And, the fans here loved it. It was one of the fights of the year last year, and we can run that back in the future.
So why didn't you, let's start with that one then. For example, why not Porter? Why didn't you run that one back?
Well, they acted like they wanted it, but they weren't that adamant about it. And at the end of the day, I wanted to move on to something that could elevate me further. Facing Porter once, it's my title on the line. Facing Porter twice, it's my title on the line. Facing Danny Garcia tomorrow night, we both have titles on the line. And another thing is, it's time for there to be a little bit of a separation between these elite athletes in the welterweight division today. You have 4 current world champions, from the still Manny Pacquiao holding the WBO, Kell Brook overseas holding the IBF, your boy Keith One-Time Thurman with the WBA, and Danny Garcia with the WBC. So after Saturday night, there will be a separation. There will be one welterweight, and the only welterweight, who will currently hold 2 world titles. And that was something that I was highly interested in making manifest.
And of course, the WBA and the WBC titles being titles that that have real meaning. Is there one? Is there one title, one that means more than the rest at this point? Like I remember, it's always been. Sometimes it's about the lineage of the title, right? And there were times when, particularly the heavyweight division, maybe the IBF and the WBC were the titles that really meant everything, and the WBA didn't mean as much. And then this guy's at the WBO. As a fighter, is there one particular title that you most desire to have around your waist?
At the end of the day, I like the title of the titles, right? So it's always been my dream. I've been dedicated myself 21 years in the game and sport of boxing. I started at 7 years old. I always wanted to have a title and be titled champion. Having two titles, you are the unified champion. Then the next title is acquiring the undisputed welterweight champion of the world. That is my real goal. Those are my real dreams that I'm trying to make manifest in the world of boxing today. Another thing is Floyd acquired many world titles, but when it comes to the welterweight division, he never was the undisputed welterweight champion of the world. We have a new, young, hot, fresh generation. Your boy Keith One-Time Thurman, Danny Garcia are at the forefront of this generation. We are going to put on a terrific performance Saturday night. But for the future of boxing, I believe that there will be, down the line, an undisputed welterweight champion. I believe it's going to be great for the sport and great for whoever that champion happens to be.
It's interesting that you mentioned that about Floyd. Do you think that's an asterisk? I mean, obviously, neither of us are going to sit here and doubt and spend a lot of time saying, doubting Floyd's merits and how great he was in ring.
Yeah.
But is it an asterisk that he was never undisputed?
So the funny thing is Mayweather accomplished so much. Pay-per-view numbers, yada, yada, yada. $100 million paydays against Manny Pacquiao. But at the end of the day, Floyd is a legend, and nobody can take away his legacy. But his legacy, now that he stepped into retirement, has created what I call a cloud or a shadow over the welterweight division.
That's right.
And I believe that it is doing unification bouts like this Saturday night and then having the cojones to go after that undisputed title. You're going to see the new generation rise to the top. And because people were asking, well, then who's going to be the next Floyd Mayweather? The problem is there's so much competition at 147, and we're all young. So we need to step in the ring. We need to go toe-to-toe, blow for blow, and let the cream of the crop and this new generation that is hot and exciting and find out it's not about being the next Mayweather, but it is about creating a new legend in the welterweight division in the sport of boxing.
I'll tell you this right now, and I say this with all due respect to Floyd Mayweather, who I've gotten to watch his entire career, and I think he's great. I do not want another Floyd Mayweather.
Right.
This era was the Mayweather era. To me, if there's an asterisk next to his name, it's the fact, and listen, it's not a knock on his skills. In some ways, his skill set made the division boring. Listen, it's not about, and for him, it was always about getting a W. I get it. That's great. Yeah. But for us spending money, you want fights. That's what people are there to see. I mean, you could take a fighter. There are fighters that are not ever going to be thought of on the level of Floyd Mayweather, like a Chico Corrales, a Barrera. Like, there are a lot of people that I love that, to me, they're not as great as Floyd, but I enjoyed their careers a hell of a lot more. You know what I mean? And there were moments that I enjoyed. And so I think it's an interesting opportunity you have Saturday night on Showtime in Brooklyn for you guys to do something special, because this is a fight that, and I by no means claim to be some sort of expert, that the people who love boxing are really excited to see. So I'm excited to see where this goes. Last question about Floyd. You think that the McGregor thing could happen, and do you think it should happen?
I don't know. I think it's a very awkward scenario, with McGregor wanting to come over and face Floyd Mayweather. It seems like there's going to be a lot of pay-per-view money. At the end of the day, what's happening is McGregor's very outspoken, and he has developed for himself what we call in the sporting industry a household name. Like it or not, he is known by the general public. And having that household name, even though he's not a boxer, he never had a world title, he is trying to convert over and challenge a the biggest household name in the sport of boxing. What do they have in common? They both are fighters, So fighters can sign contracts and fight. Where would the fight be held? Which sanctioning body will sanction a McGregor-Floyd fight? McGregor's never had a 4-round fight, an 8-round fight, a 10-round fight when it comes to the ring of boxing. So it's interesting. I say at the least, they both get to continuously keep their brands out there in the moment until it either manifests or finally dies off. But pay-per-view wise, there's money to be made. McGregor sells pay-per-view. Floyd sells pay-per-view.
But from a fight standpoint, if it was boxing, I mean, I interviewed Max Kellerman recently, and I mean, Kellerman said as sure as he believes anything in life, Conor has literally no chance against Floyd Mayweather in a boxing ring.
Especially not in a 12-round fight.
It's just impossible.
No, there's no way that he's going to be ready for that. McGregor does have a little bit of a punch, and it's just going to be that typical, can he land that punch on Mayweather? If anything, at least Mayweather is not the same athlete that he once was due to age. Age is a factor for athletes. So there's always some risk
for a little bit.
Let him be that
Floyd,
millisecond slower and bam, and we see Floyd go down.
Not going to happen. And Floyd, we all know, Floyd has fights where if Floyd likes and respects the opponent on some level, he will let them stay in a fight longer. Like I have seen fights with Floyd where he will let people mess around with him for 4 or 5 rounds, and you're like, oh, that's cute. And then after a certain point, it's like, all right, I'm done. Pop. You never see him again. Fight's over. But the fans felt like at least they got a little bit of a fight for a minute. But anyways, I don't know if that'll happen or not. But I just think it's an interesting situation.
What I would really love to see though, because I'm a fighter too, right? Like, bump it. You want to cross over here? People want to know if boxers want to cross over there. I say, why not have a 2-fight contract? One in the ring and one in the octagon. The problem is Floyd's not that kind of fighter.
Nah, that would never happen.
Yeah.
Like that's an ugly situation too. A true boxer who's never done mixed martial arts going over there, that would be a problem unless you get in with someone who really only uses their hands. But the second it goes beyond that.
But the funny thing is, McGregor, to me,
is practically a boxer.
I
know.
When he fought Diaz for the rematch,
that was a boxing match.
When you knock somebody down and you tell them, "Hey, come get up, stand up," why is the referee not in there giving him a 10 count? Because
right.
At the end of the day, that's a boxing match. There's a reason why you're allowed to hit him on the floor. If you choose not to do that, and McGregor's been taking more and more boxing lessons, so. He's an interesting character. He's been dominating his industry, and he made a big, big name for himself. We'll see what happens.
If you were to exist in one other era, if you'd gotten to be around in another era of boxing, which era would it have been?
Definitely the Leonard Hearns Duran.
Getting that mix,
getting it in. Duran would have been a tremendous fight. Styles wise. Hearns, he was a monster. I mean, his height, reach, power, that right hand of his, Sugar Ray Leonard, the speed, the athleticism, and just being able to be raised in that era with the way that they fought and their mentality and their training habits and how they just really fought to fight, They'd finesse their way sometime, but it was like, look, man, everybody knew I got something to prove. This is my reputation on the line. It's not about the money. It's more about that street cred back in the day. Like, I want to beat you for me, for my people, for my city. I want to put on, you know what I mean? And it's still like that today, but Mayweather has taught people how to finesse their way into maneuvering and picking the right fights and doing this and doing that. And he branded himself very well, and I don't think, there was very few people that would have gave him a lot of competition, but he did fight Mosley when Mosley wasn't the same Sugar Shane Mosley. He fought Pacquiao after 5 years of talking about fighting Pacquiao, things of that nature, But that's why this fight Saturday night is such a big fight. We could have waited another year to amp this up, but no, I want this fight here. I want this fight now. I'm ready for action.
Well, that's awesome. I'm looking forward to watching it. You grew up in Florida, correct?
Born and raised Clearwater, Florida, right outside of Tampa Bay.
And you told me that you are biracial, black dad, white mom. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
What was that experience? I mean, you're only 28, right? So people would think that, well, 28 years ago, not that long ago. My guess, based on stories that I hear about people growing up everywhere in America, is that when you talk to biracial people, they have interesting experiences about growing up in a biracial household. I'm curious, because I don't think I've ever talked to anyone who grew up in that time period in the South, in Florida. Was life growing up as a biracial kid in Florida 28 years ago, 20 years ago, an interesting experience at all?
I think being biracial is an interesting experience in itself.
Period, yes.
Just period. You question so much about the world and you're learning so much about the world when you're growing up. So at the end of the day, I was raised by my white mother. I was a single child. My father he was around, but he wasn't around. He wasn't in the household. They split at a very young age before I ever started school.
Did you spend time with him at all or no?
I did, and I'm grateful, and I love my father to death. My father he got married, had 3 other children. They are my brothers and sisters, and they're the only brothers and sisters I have, so I love them to death. And I watched my father go through a divorce and gain custody of the children, and as a single black man, he raised 3 children on his own. He always gave time to me when he could, and he always spoke to me like a young man and not like a boy, and I respect him for that too. It helped me develop. I always took his words of wisdom because I didn't always have him by my side. So whenever he dropped knowledge, I try to listen, But for me growing up, I was raised in a black neighborhood. It was dominantly black, some Hispanics, some white, and it wasn't that bad. I say my hood's the hood where it's all good. Stuff went down, but it wasn't as dominant as a place like New York, or Chicago, things of that nature. So that's why I always nicknamed my neighborhood the hood where it's all good, But you do get to understand poverty at a young age. You don't have what other people have. But another thing too, and a thing that struggles is the stereotypes that you learn as you grow up, especially the ones that are promoted through the media, and it's difficult because even as a actual black man, as a whole black man, it's as if the more you read a book, the whiter you are.
Right.
The more you're in the streets selling drugs, messing with the girls, you a G, and it's difficult because it's like, where do I fit in? I'm white and I'm black. Where do I fit in? Do I want to be more white? Do I want to be more black?
So you feel like in making decisions about what your interests may be, it affects the way people then judge the way you want to represent yourself. And it's almost like they feel you're making a decision on who you are as a person.
I had a black friend growing up who skateboarded. They called him Oreo. Right. Black on the outside, white on the inside.
Which, by the way, that is one good change. That I do feel that in 2017, black kids skateboarding. This is a very minute thing.
It is minute,
but it has become a normal. It's something that not, people don't think of that way. But you're right. Back in the day, that was considered a white boy activity. Would be skateboarding.
Yep. And I'm playing golf nowadays. That's, Tiger Woods was the only brother holding it down for us. He did pretty good for a very long time.
He did. Hey, listen, Tiger got me playing golf too. Tiger got everyone. Like if you were like lightly interested in golf, Tiger was the guy who made you think, you know what? Maybe I should go check out this golf thing. Maybe it's not as bad as they say.
And it's funny because I just accept you are who you are. If you're interracial, you need to understand your heritage and why you are the way that you are. I'm white and I'm black. So I should be doing as much white shit as I want. I should be doing as much black shit as I want. And I should talk about whites and blacks because I can, And so I found a way to accept that you are who you are. Everybody's an individual. Everyone has something different about them. Everybody is something special. But at the end of the day, your educational level has nothing to do with your race.
That's right.
Has nothing to do with your race. Your hobbies have nothing to do with your race unless if you are trying to be that certain way for for instance, because it's hard on the black man, that black pride, you know? I mean, shoot. I mean, the white boys were buying more rap albums than the brothers were once upon a time, man. You know what I mean? I mean, hip hop hit the scene in a way to where it touched everybody. It influenced the Asian cultures, breakdancing, the B-boys, this, that, you know. So music, black culture has a powerful impact on everybody. The blues back in the day, you know, jazz, it's always been like that.
Well, no, I mean, in America, black culture is American culture. It is the driving force in new American culture and has been that way for forever. I mean, with very few exceptions. Who of your family is coming to the fight tomorrow on Saturday night?
My father, his new wife, my brothers, my sisters, my nephew, my auntie, her husband, some of their friends, from the Maryland, D.C. district, and the only person that's really not coming is my grandparents and my mother, because she don't like to fly. Mother doesn't like to fly, and even though we flew private out here, thanks to my lawyer, the next thing that came out of her mouth was, "It's too cold." So, you know, Mama always got some excuses.
Did she get scared to watch you fight?
Well, I'll tell you something. She did not like the Sean Porter performance. So we are coming out here not just to put on a show for you guys, but to make Mama proud, you know. And she literally, I got home and she said, "Don't you ever do that again."
All right, well, listen, thank you very much for coming by. Looking forward to Saturday night. Again, it's Showtime Championship Boxing on CBS this Saturday night, live from the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia. Good luck Saturday night, man.
Thank you very much.
All right, man.